The 2024-25 Premier League campaign is on the horizon. In preparation, we're previewing every single team and discussing how they'll shape up over the next campaign. We take a look at the transfer business conducted by the teams so far and offer suggestions of who else they should move for before the season gets started. Today, we talk about Tottenham. Following a mixed debut campaign for Postecoglou, we discuss how they can build on it and whether they can finally end their trophy drought. We also look at whether they'll finally get round to replacing Harry Kane and whether their transfer targets are slightly misguided. This is our 2024-25 season preview for Tottenham. Alright, let's talk about Tottenham then. We like to start this by looking back at last season, discussing what went well, what went wrong. For Tottenham, it was a fantastic start to the season. The first, 10 matches, they're brilliant. They're right up there with Arsenal, with Manchester City, and we thought, Postecoglou's come in, they're going to win the Premier League. That didn't happen, they finished 5th in the end, but there was such strong early signs. Then they had that mental game against Chelsea, where Udogie got sent off, wasn't it, and then Romero tried to kill someone probably.
Yeah.
Got another red card, they were down to 9 players, they played a ridiculously high line, it was a farce, but until that point they were playing very well. I think Postecoglou showed himself last season to be a very aggressive manager, someone who doesn't ever give up a fight.
Yeah, very much so. It was a weird season for Tottenham. As you say, it started so well, and then we saw the very familiar cracks start to open.
They've got a few injuries, to be fair, at that point.
A few injuries came, but then we started to see a lot of off-the-pitch problems come into it as well, that Conte had highlighted, that Mourinho had highlighted, and then Postecoglou has started highlighting as well. And thing is with Postecoglou, very similar to those two managers, he is very
outspoken in the media.
Yeah, he's very outspoken in the media. He's also very stubborn. He's very honest. So if he doesn't like something, he will say so. If he's not happy with something, he's going to tell everyone about it. And that is also, it can be a good thing, because sometimes that's what players need. They need to be told directly, or they need to be, everyone needs to know about it, so that they know what it's like. But it also can be a bad thing. And we saw towards the end, on the pitch performances start to tail off the pitch shenanigans started to increase and became more severe, and it kind of started to mar what was a decent campaign from Tottenham. 5th in the Premier League is still a decent campaign, but it did start, the ship became a little bit rocky towards the end of the campaign.
I think once the top sides figured out what they were doing, it became very easy to stop them.
Yes.
And that will be a concern for Postecoglou this season. I think a lot of the frustration for Ange came during that Manchester City game, where Tottenham obviously wanted to lose. A lot of the fans wanted to lose so that Arsenal wouldn't win the title, which I think created a lot of frustration for Postecoglou, because it's very difficult to manage in that situation. But I understand it from Tottenham fans. They hate Arsenal as part of football. But I do think it's a little bit weird to want your club to lose. So I understand Ange Postecoglou's opinion on that. I think it's very, and obviously he's got to say that. He can't come out and go, we want to lose because we hate Arsenal. So you can understand why, in that regard, he's making comments like that. But I think there is a lot of optimism this season for Tottenham. I think there's also a lot of things to be worried about. I think they are still a few big signings away, but there is now some movement in the transfer market. And I think with a week to go to the Premier League, or a week now to go to the Premier League season, it's a little bit late to be acting, but there's still enough time to get it done before the window's now shut. It might just be a little bit of a slow start to the season. But I think they've got a nice enough fixture run that they can get away with
potentially.
That. So Europa League football this season as well for Tottenham. I think that in a way, obviously they want that Champions League revenue, but I think in a way Europa League is much more suited to Tottenham. Tottenham will be able to play some of the younger players who haven't been given a whole load of minutes in the Premier League yet. I think they'll be able to. It's a competition they should realistically be winning.
I mean, we've thought
it's Tottenham,
League,
so
and that was a complete cock up.
Equally, I think they underestimated hugely that competition, because they rotated a lot, they rested a lot, and then they got dumped out by was it LASK, someone like that?
I can't remember now.
Dinamo Zagreb. No. It was someone random like that, but yeah, they're disappointing in that campaign. But Europa League football, it's a chance for them to at least go deep into a competition, if not go all the way. Realistically, they should win the Europa League.
Yes.
Premier League sides should always be the favourites to win the Europa League, given the strength and the resource in this league. So there's no excuses for Tottenham.
These Tottenham players should be playing higher than the Europa League. Let's be honest here. You look at the Tottenham squad, somebody like players like Son, they should not be playing in the Europa League. He is a player that should be playing in the Champions League every single season. So the fact that in the Europa League, I think is spot on. They have to go deep in it. Their expectation should be to go deep in Europe this season. If they don't, that is another failure in Europe.
Yeah, very true. And Yeah, be interesting to see. Shall we have a look then at their incomings and outgoings? Because it is a long list of outgoings, but I think it's a very needed clear out
Very
for
much
Tottenham.
so.
There's a lot of deadwood in the club. There's a lot of players who just weren't at the standard, and I think it's good that they've sent a lot of them away. So let's start with outgoings, because then we can get into the replacements after that. So Eric Dyer's joined Bayern Munich for free. He was there last season anyway, I think on a loan. I assume on a loan deal.
It's not a loss.
It's not a huge loss. I couldn't believe he was 30 when I found that out the other day, because his hairline doesn't look 30, but fair enough. I think it's going to be interesting to see how he gets on out there. Tuchel seems to like him. Will be interesting.
I like him.
But Tuchel's not there anymore, so no idea what's happening with Bayern this season.
No.
We'll see how it does under company. Forgot about that for a moment. Tanguy Ndombele is then left on a free.
Wow. This must be a sigh of relief for Tottenham fans.
In a sense, I think it was a huge shame this transfer didn't work out.
Oh, it's an absolute failure.
When he was... Yeah, but I'm not sure where that failure lies, because he didn't perform as well as he should have. Did Tottenham give him a huge opportunity? I'm not sure whether
Wasn't
they did.
Part of that weird thing with the training in the park with Mourinho.
Mourinho took him to a park in London and made him run around a lot in the heat. No idea what that was about. Didn't work, unfortunately. But yeah, free transfer. Hopefully he finds a club and can start playing some football again. He's not played a whole lot for Tottenham.
It's one of
he was out on loan
those-
last season anyway, I think.
It's good that Tottenham have finally just cut their losses. You know, he's left the club on a free. Move on. Just move on.
I think what you're seeing with all of these outgoings is the huge difference in all of the eras Tottenham have had.
Yeah.
You've got like some random Nuno signings, you've got some random Conte signings, and it's just about getting them all out of the club and now starting to build this Ange Postecoglou
Exactly,
team.
because the team will be purely Ange's team, who he wants, who the scouts and the transfer staff have wanted over the last year, rather than who Jose Mourinho wanted to bring in or didn't want to bring in. It's what they're doing is they're putting the very messy last few years behind them and moving forward, which is exactly what they need to do.
Yeah, definitely. They're taking out the floor of the club and bringing in young players to fill that, and hoping academy products can come through as well. So that's very good to see, and also making players who were starters now more rotation players, by bringing in those big stars potentially. So other outgoings: Ivan Perisic to Hajduk Split. He's
makes sense. He's
a
passed
Conte signing. He's 34. He didn't play a whole lot last season. He'll have a fun time out in Croatia for a year and then retire. Joe Rodon has gone to Leeds United for 10 million. Again, another player who there was a lot of potential there. I don't think he'd ever realised it at Tottenham. He didn't ever really get an opportunity at Tottenham, but I don't think he's ever good enough.
This is one of the things. He was a bit part rotation player, but realistically for me, I don't think he's good enough quality to play a bit part rotation role in a side in the top 5 of the Premier League.
No, I'm sure he'll be very good for Leeds this season. I think it's a good signing, and he will probably play Premier League football at some point in his career. I'm not sure whether Tottenham was ever the place for him though.
No.
And he hasn't really been given those opportunities. Good to see him move on. You then got Jaffa Tanganga going to Millwall on a free. I'm sure he's going to have great fun at Millwall.
He'll love it.
I couldn't believe this bloke's played as much Premier League football as he has. Obviously, he played a lot under, was it Nuno? I think he played a fair bit of football. So he's played loads for Tottenham, actually, but
says a lot.
I don't think it's a huge loss.
No, I don't get me wrong. I'm not going to sit here and I think he's a decent player, and he did do okay for Tottenham when he played. But realistically, similar to Rodon, for me, these are the players that the Tottenham are doing well to get rid of, because for what Tottenham are trying to achieve, they've got to realistically realise that Tanganga and Rodon aren't really good enough.
Yeah.
But that's what they've done, and that is good. Positive.
Then Troy Parrott as well, another one who was tipped to be great. It hasn't worked out. 3.5 million. He's at Alkmaar. I'm sure he could do all right out there. So yeah, nice deal.
5-10 goals in the Eredivisie. He'll have a decent.
And then he'll probably get shipped to back to the Premier League, Southampton for 20 million in a couple of years' time, and not be very good.
Yeah.
Or will be very good. Who knows?
And the only goal he scored will be against Tottenham.
Yeah.
Exactly that.
It's just the crowd. Emile Højbjerg's left to Marseille on a loan. I think Marseille is a really exciting project, and he'll be good there. I think he'll provide that steel that De Zerbi wants in his midfield. For Tottenham, he was a fairly reliable player. I don't think he's ever going to see what Ange wants from a midfielder, but he's been okay for Tottenham. He's always put a shift in. Yes, he picks up a lot of yellow cards, but who doesn't in this Tottenham team?
Yeah, Højbjerg was definitely more of a Mourinho midfielder. There's a bit of a brute in there who just pick up a card every game. But Mourinho loved that fight, and he'd win you the ball back 8 times out of 10, and he'd take the player down 2 times out of 10. And he was a decent player, but as you say, Ange is not what Ange wants.
I don't remember when he joined. It feels like he's been there forever.
Yeah,
it was at Southampton, wasn't it? But I don't remember when he joined. But yeah, he has been there a while, and loan move to Marseille with probably a look to sell him on next summer. That works out. If that works out, nice. Ryan Sessegnon. It was a shame this signing never really worked out. He's gone back to Fulham now, and I hope he can rekindle that that promise, that magic he showed at the start of his career,
Yeah.
but this never really worked out. I just don't think they ever realised what his best position was. They couldn't either as a left winger or a left back. They didn't really play him in the Premier League either,
No.
Tottenham. So, yeah, and again, he's the problem with going through managers like Tottenham have is that they won't suit every tactical
Was he
system.
Conte? Was he? It's
I think he
hard.
joined to play as left wing back under
Yeah.
Conte. Then Nuno, who was supposed to play as left wing back, didn't really do that. Mourinho obviously didn't really use him. So again,
Yeah.
so many managers. They're not. These players aren't going to suit every system.
No.
Sessegnon, I think it's an opportunity now for him to go back to Fulham and potentially rekindle it. He was never going to work really in this Ange side, so that's not a huge surprise. Then Brian Hill, another one who. I still think there's a lot of promise for Brian Hill. I think Tottenham will be hoping this loan move is something fruitful.
Yeah.
They can then bring him
I'm
back.
glad they've loaned him out
but-
and not sold him, because there's still a chance that he could, because he's played decently. He's played decent minutes for Tottenham, hasn't he? And he featured a bit under Ange. I like the fact it's a loan and not a permanent. They're still giving him a chance. He could do brilliantly at a good Girona side, come back in at the start of next season, and perhaps he'll be a really good player.
Yeah, I mean, he was out on loan at Sevilla and didn't really show a whole lot in the back end of last season, so I'm not sure, but they'll be hoping he can perform and then either he comes back or he gets
Yeah.
sold for some decent money, which would suit Tottenham as well. And
Yeah.
then Aleo Veliz, who they signed last season, the
He
Argentinian
featured a bit,
striker.
didn't he?
He played a few minutes, but yeah, I think it'll be interesting to see how he gets on loan at Espanyol. He's going to be a starting striker there, which I think is really
Yeah.
nice. Makes more sense than him just sitting around and watching Richarlison miss chances. So I think it'll be a good opportunity for him, and hopefully he can put up some good numbers.
Yes, very much
So yeah,
so.
lots of outgoings. Let's talk incomings then, because there's some exciting signings here. Timo Werner back on another season loan. I don't hate this. Reliable winger cover. I don't mind this.
I get why. I think he's a decent player and he fits what Ange wants. I guess he knows the squad as well. I just have reservations because I don't think I saw enough of him. I don't think I saw enough last season to warrant coming back. But it's another loan, so it's not like they've gone and bought him for 25 million and completely ruined it. He's what Ange wants, and realistically, he is a decent player. He's a very quick player. He might build on last season and a really good campaign this year.
There's such potential with Timo Werner. I hope he unlocks it. But
Yeah.
he never did at Chelsea. Maybe he will at Tottenham. If not, he'll go back to Leipzig and potentially have a chance there.
Yeah.
I'll be very intrigued to see what happens with Timo this season. I think there's, as I say, lots of potential there. Whether that amounts to anything or not,
Yeah.
I guess we'll see. He's also a really good player just to have around the camp. He is quite a
Yeah.
nice person, it seems.
Nice player.
Whenever he was at Chelsea, I remember him being quite a positive person. So, yeah, seems like a really nice bloke. So why not keep him around and see if he can help you with your cause. And then two signings. Lucas Bergvall in from Djurgården in Sweden for 8.5 million. This is a huge coup.
Really good.
Really good price as well for a player of his quality. We've spoken about him already. We did a short on him at the time. I think it's a really nice signing.
Great player, really good player, very smart piece of business for Tottenham. And if he can realise his potential and utilise and Ange can utilise his talent, he could be a star for Tottenham. He really could.
Yeah, it helps he's got that. He looks like a star boy.
Yes,
He looks like a
yes.
player who's going to come in and do really well. So I think it's an exciting signing. He can play a more central role, can also cover out on the right wing, so you've got options there. I think he'll probably play in that central role,
Yeah.
rotating with Maddison or challenging Maddison to that starting position. I wouldn't be surprised if we see Bergvall take that position from
Potentially.
James Maddison this season, so that'll be interesting to see. A really exciting creative midfielder. I think he's going to be a huge success. 8.5 million, it's very difficult for him to be a failure.
Yeah.
The worst that happens is you get your money back, so not too bad. And then Archie Gray joining from Leeds United for 35 million. I'm not sure where Gray's going to play or where he's going to rank in minutes. Obviously, he played right back last season for Leeds. I can't imagine he'd play that inverted role because with that inverted right back role, they tend to end up more like an attacking midfielder. I think Gray will probably play that Papi Matar, that deepest midfielder role where you come receive the ball off the centre halves and then you progress it forwards. He's very good at ball progression, Archie Gray. I think he's a really nice signing. He's a very much a playmaking midfielder as well. So if he does get a chance to ping those balls around, execute balls in behind to your Son, your new striker we're going to talk about in a moment, potential new striker, Werner, your Brennan Johnson, players like that who are very pacey wingers, very pacey forwards, getting them in behind, I think he'll have a chance to do that.
Brilliant player, absolutely brilliant player. I really like him. I think he was great for Leeds, and it's a brilliant signing from Tottenham. Obviously, he was linked and was rumoured going to a big side, and I think the fact that Tottenham picked him up has kind of surprised a few people because usually they're the side that miss out on players like Archie Gray. This is a really, really good piece of business.
Yeah, 35 is very steep, but I think it's a good price to play for a very good player. And obviously, helps to fill those English quotas as well when they do,
Yeah.
now that they are back in Europe. Let's have a look then at this squad screen then for Tottenham. We expect it to be that same 4-3-3.
Yeah.
Obviously, looks very different in possession because the wing backs both invert and fly forwards. You've got players dropping in everywhere. It's very fluid.
Yeah.
Very fluid Tottenham system. So it's easy just to put it as their out of possession system. In goal, you've got a really nice starting goalkeeper. Guillermo Vicario means you can play a super high line and then just rely on the fact he'll save anything when they get in behind. I do think that I think, yes, it's a very good season last season. Will he match up this season? Probably, but you've still got to consider it is only a second Premier League campaign. Is there a chance last season will be one season wonder? Probably not, but you never know.
Yeah.
But I think he's a fantastic goalkeeper. I think he'll be very reliable. You've got Fraser Forster as well, who's an okay backup. The defence is actually quite solid. At left back, I still think they will want another player. They've got Destiny Udogie, who was fantastic last season, had a great debut Premier League campaign, and Sergio Reguilon is still at the club, so that's another one they need to look to move on. He had two loan moves last season. United was very unsuccessful. Brentford went well. I think Brentford will probably be looking to sign him again, or hopefully for Tottenham's sake they are. He's a player who's been okay for Tottenham. I think moving him on would be
cut your losses, let him go.
Yeah, then left centre half, they've got Mickey van der Ven, who proved himself last season when he was fit to be one of the strongest centre halves in the league.
Yeah.
I have some doubts over his fitness, and Ben Davies being his only backup is worrying. Obviously, you could play Dragasine, you could play Phillips there, but I think they'll look to sign another left centre half there, so that's another area to discuss. Right centre half, they've got Christian Romero, and you need two backups there in case Romero managed to get loads of red cards. So that's smart. They've got Dragasine, they've got Phillips. I think Romero's a good defender. I don't like him, though. His discipline's awful, but he is a good defender. He does put in a good tackle.
Yeah,
Firm.
I like. Yeah, as you say, I think Romero, he is a decent defender. He does. I think it's the control over the tackles as well, because not only does he make fouls, but it's the way he goes in. He just flies in at ankles. Like
It's that body shape, isn't it? It looks like a terrible tackle every time, even if it's clean.
Exactly. So just needs to watch that discipline slightly, but he is a decent centre half, and he clearly he will die for the badge, quite literally.
Kill for it.
He wears his heart on his sleeve, and I like that. I think Dragusin's brilliant cover, had a superb Euros with Romania. If he can bring that into the domestic season, very handy rotation option in there. So yeah, decent centre half, but that left centre half needs sorting out because Ben Davies can't play back up to Van der Ven, who is very injury prone because he constantly has to catch up to strikers that are throw on goal.
Yeah, very true. So that's an area I think that needs to be discussed. At right back, I think they're fine. Emerson Royale's looking to move him on.
Yeah.
I think he'll probably go to AC Milan for about £20 million. They've got Pedro Porro, who was absolutely phenomenal last season. I think he'll continue to play that role. I do think there's a bit of debate here because obviously DJ Spence, this has been a thing because of a Twitter user called Invert the Wing, and don't click off Tottenham fans. I know he's not very popular amongst Tottenham fans because he's very divisive with what he talks about. But I do think he makes a good point in that Pedro Porro is a fantastic attacking fullback, but he's not great defensively. There was a reason he played right wing back under Amorim at Sporting. There's a reason that under Postecoglou he does play a very attacking role. He isn't the best defensively. I think DJ Spence gives you everything, well probably not everything, but almost everything that Pedro Porro gives you in attacking areas, and is a lot more defensive. So I think that could be interesting to see what they do with DJ Spence.
Yeah.
However, I do have my own reservations about Spence because he's never proven it in the Premier League.
No.
He was great in the Championship for Middlesbrough, wasn't it? No, Forest. That was it. Yeah, because he was at Middlesbrough. Neil Warnock didn't like him, then he went to Forest and he shushed Neil Warnock. But yes, that was an interesting period. So I think there's a lot of potential there, but he's not proven at this level. And are we intrigued? I think he's a good backup though.
Yeah, definitely. That will be an interesting battle to see what happens this season.
He's played a lot in pre-season as well, so that's encouraging to see. Then in defence midfield, or your two midfield options, you've got Basuma, you've got Bentancur, and you've got Oliver Skipp. We spoke about Skipp in our last video actually at Southampton because I think he's going to leave Tottenham this summer, and that could be a nice destination for him. He's a player, it's never really worked out for him at Tottenham. He's okay, but he's not brilliant.
No.
I don't think he's going to be a huge loss at all.
No.
So, not bad. Basuma, I think, is a really good player. Bentancur, when he's fit, really good player. I think those two are really nice. Not a fan?
I like Bentancur. I think he's a good player. I think Basuma's a good player. I don't know what it is about Basuma. I'm not his biggest fan but I think he's a handy player. I prefer Bentancur, but I think they're both decent players. Basuma has had a bit of a tendency, attitude-wise. I do have some questions there as well. But overall, decent midfielders.
Fair enough. I did like when he laughed at that at the Arsenal players when they lost at that time for Brighton. So Yeah, maybe he's all right. And then you got Sarr, you got Gray, you got Lo Celso as well. I'll be intrigued to see whether Lo Celso gets minutes this season. Obviously, he was out on loan last year. He's coming back now into the side. It's going to be difficult for him to get minutes, but I think there is some potential there. And then you got obviously Gray joined. You got Papalata Sarr, who was really solid last season.
Yeah, massive step up.
Yeah, I think that's a very solid midfield. Wide areas is interesting. Left wing, I think you're sorted. Son, Werner, Solomon, and Moore. Still so much to see from Manor Solomon. He obviously tore his meniscus last season, so we didn't actually see him. He played 5 matches all year, so we've not seen him yet in a Tottenham shirt. But he was really good at Fulham the season before in the Premier League. I think if they can unlock the best from him,
I'll be intrigued.
That's fantastic to see. I'd be intrigued to see how many minutes he gets. I think Son will return to that left wing now because they are targeting a huge striker. So
yeah.
And that's not Richarlison. So I think Son will go back to the left wing. I think then you'll have, Werner, Solomon. You've got Mikey Moore as well. I think there's huge potential there. There's a reason that some other big clubs have been looking at him, trying to, prize him across. But I think Tottenham should be investing a lot in Mikey Moore. Seems to be a very talented footballer. I'll be interested to see how he goes. In attacking midfield, you've got James Maddison, who now he's back from injury, you think will start. You've also got Lucas Bergvall, who, as I say, I think will compete for him for minutes, and you've got Alfie Devine. So a lot of quality players in attacking midfield. So I'm intrigued to see what they do there. I wouldn't be surprised if Devine did get a loan move because I don't really see where the minutes are for him this season, but I guess we'll see, especially because I think Kulusevski will be used more in that central role. We saw it start to happen last season. I don't think he suits what Ange wants from a right winger. Kulusevski's very much an inside forward. Ange likes a player who can hug the touchline, a bit like Brennan Johnson. So I think they'll look at another right wing because in right wing they've only got Johnson and Kulusevski. I think Kulusevski will play that more central role. And then in the line you've got Richarlison. So the less said about that, the better. He's rejected to move to Saudi Arabia. He was pretty poor for Tottenham in the last 2 seasons. I don't know.
The problem is he doesn't help himself because he's one of those players where terrible attitude.
I don't know if it's terrible attitude. It's more that it's just very dislikable. It's like Bruno in that
sense. What I mean. That's what I'm saying. It's not attitude, but arrogance. The whole score at Liverpool and then dancing like a twat as a chicken, and then the goal got.
That was fantastic. See when it got disallowed.
Exactly. That's the problem. He sets those moments up for himself because he's prancing around like a prat. Yeah. Just score the goal and celebrate. He's one of those players. He doesn't paint himself in a very good light. So when he has a bit of a tough season, it then looks even worse because you don't feel bad for him as such. You don't go, "Oh, it's a really tough season for Richarlison." You go, "He's had a terrible season." I
think that's very much his on-pitch persona, though, I will say, because I think off the pitch he seems like a genuinely very nice person.
I'm sure he is. I don't know him personally. I'm sure he's a nice player.
What we've seen with like his dedication to supporting the women's game, for dedication towards like humanitarian cause and stuff, he seems to be a genuinely nice person. So I think it's just his on-pitch persona that annoys a lot of people, and especially when you don't back that up with performances, it's very difficult to gain support of even your own fans in that sense. So I think they definitely need another striker. I don't agree with a lot of Tottenham fans who say that they need to sell him instantly. I think he could still be a reliable backup, still an option.
I think he's a decent player. It's hard because it's as you say, it's the same Bruno Fernandes, same Garnacho, players like that. They're good players, but they tarnish all that quality by that arrogance, that on pitch attitude, and the way they conduct themselves when they're playing football. They kind of mar what is actually a decent player that could play very, very well for Tottenham.
Yeah, shall we talk about some transfers then? We'll start at the back and make our way slowly forwards because there's a lot to go through here. I think Tottenham have a lot of money and a lot to do, so why not go and do it? Now, left centre half, I saw a really good suggestion from Alex, your expert. He's a Tottenham fan. He was doing the sensible transfers for the Athletic channel. I really like the suggestion of Evan Ndicka. So I don't want to talk about that because go and watch that video if you want to see someone talk about Evan Ndicka. Instead, I want to talk about David Hanko. Fantastic last season with Feyenoord, and I think he suits exactly what Tottenham want from a centre-half in possession. He's very tall, Slovakian, that's always a win. I think he'll come in and be a really reliable backup to Mickey van de Ven. He can also play left-back, probably not in how Tottenham use their left-backs, but he could cover there. I think it'd be more likely you see van de Ven cover there and play that role, and then Hanko play centre-half if Udogie was injured. So that gives you an option there. I think it's like his tackles and tackles won are a little bit low, but again, I think that's because Feyenoord play very aggressive football. They weren't really, they were dominating teams. They beat Ajax 6-0 last season, so it's not like they had to rely on him hugely in defensive areas. So I don't have any doubts about those defensive numbers would go up. Obviously, I expect those pass numbers would slightly decrease, but again, he ranked in the 99th percentile in that position for progressive passes. 8.07 per 90, 2.70 progressive carries per 90. Again, 99th percentile. So I think in that sense, he's a very, very good player. Very good with the ball at his feet. I think it's a good signing.
Yeah, very much so. I think he's a very, very good centre-half. He's a top-quality centre-half, and it feels like he deserved that move into a top-5 league and to come into the Premier League. I think it's a thoroughly deserved move, and I think it adapts very nicely.
Yeah, my only doubt with it is whether he'd be interested in coming in and being that backup player, being a rotation player, because you would expect Van der Ven to be preferred for those big matches. So, yeah, but again, he might look at that Van der Ven injury record, or he might back his own abilities and say, you know what, I think I can get into this. I think I can start. Yeah. So that'll be very interesting to see what happens there. But yeah, I think he's a really good player. Moving on then, let's talk a left back. Ferdi Kadioglu is going to be the suggestion. He is excellent. And he's already a right-footed left back, so inverting into midfield is very suited to his skill set. His numbers are incredible. Again, he plays in the Turkish league, so take everything with a little bit of a pinch of salt, but still, phenomenal numbers. He ranked in the 99th percentile for touches, so he loves getting involved with the play. Progressive passes and progressive carries are both in the 99th percentile as well. 8.83 progressive passes, 5.19 progressive carries. Clearly very good at bringing that ball forwards. And again, Tottenham talk about how they get the ball from back to front. I think by bringing in Kadioglu, bringing in players like Hanko, they definitely aid that. I think he's quite similar to Udogi, so there's not a huge change there when you do rotate that side. And the fact that Kadioglu can play either fullback as well definitely supports his cause. So I think it'd be a really nice option. Fenerbahce, it's a difficult club to negotiate with. They will want a lot of money for him, but I think he'd be a really nice signing. And whether Jose Mourinho would let him go to Tottenham is another matter. He might go, well, mate, don't go there. Terrible. So that might go against you there. Yeah,
very, very good numbers. Very good player. Had a really strong European Championships as well for Turkey.
Yeah.
And another player that deserves that step up. So, and I'd be if he did join the Premier League, if he did join Tottenham, I'd be very intrigued to see how he'd do.
Yeah, let's talk right wing then. And first, I think I want to talk about a suggestion that I'm not including. In that is Pedro Neto, because yes, the deal seems close, and I think that's probably going to happen now.
Yeah.
But we're not in this video. We're not talking about signings that are going to happen. We're talking about players that they should sign, and I'm not sure on Pedro Neto. I think £60 million for a player with that injury record isn't great. I think it might be slightly lower than that, to be fair, but I think it was £60 million. The fact that I don't think he's better than Brennan Johnson is a huge concern. I think maybe I'm delusional in that take. I think people will disagree with me, but from what I've seen, I think Johnson's a better player than Neto, or at least there's not a huge disparity between them. Yeah. So I don't think it's a great signing, if I'm honest. I think it's okay, and he's still a good player, but it's very pricey for a player who is very injury prone. It's not the worst signing. I think he still do a good job, but I think there's better out there. And we're going to suggest one who is very injury prone, but it's a deal that I think Tottenham can take a risk on. It's Federico Chiesa. This would be a huge signing. I know his injury record has been terrible. He's barely played football for like 4 or 5 years now, but obviously he's still played in that time a little bit, but he's been very injured. I think he's a magnificent player. When he's fit, Federico Chiesa is one of the top players in the game. So I feel that there is a chance here for Tottenham to take a player who is being discarded by Juventus. They're happy to sell him 15-20 million.
Exactly.
So I think that's a punt that Tottenham can take.
Bargain.
There's a team with enough money to be able to take a punt on 15-20 million. It's Tottenham right now.
Yeah.
And it's a project I think Chiesa would be interested in. He's a player who would be suited fairly well to Ange's system. If you can keep him fit, he's absolutely phenomenal. Brilliant creative player, a fantastic dribbler. I think it'd be a great signing.
Yeah, brilliant player on a very cheap deal because his club want to get rid of him. I understand his...
I think the wage will still be high because he's on 170,000 a week.
But I'll be intrigued to where he take a pay cut because he understands that he is so injury prone.
Well, even if it's 150 a week, it's not breaking Tottenham's wage structure. So.
But yeah, a brilliant player. When he's fit, he is an incredible talent. And I would, if it just, for him to have... a season free of injuries in the Premier League, he could excel to no end. And that is a gamble that Tottenham can take for such a low price. It would be a brilliant piece of business.
Yeah, and then you just got to hope he stays fit. If he doesn't, it's £20 million, £15 million that has been weighted, but it's a
Yeah.
punt that Tottenham, I think, would be able to go, well, you know what, that didn't work out, but it was a punt worth taking. The key difference for me is that if you sign Pedro Neto and obviously the striker that's going to be 75, 80 million pounds, that's your budget there. And so where, how can you improve in defensive areas? For me, that 60 million on Neto, if you're going to spend big on a right winger, it's got to be a Johan Bakayoko.
Yeah.
It's got to be a Nico Williams. Someone that is genuinely going to raise the level of the squad. I'm not sure Pedro Neto is that guy.
No.
Especially with his injury record. So
Exactly.
I'm intrigued by that. I think I'll be very intrigued to see how he performs, because I think he will probably join now.
Yeah.
Let's talk striker then, because Tottenham are making a big splash, and this is going to be very interesting to see whether this works out. Dominic Solanke joining from Bournemouth for 75 million. I have huge reservations, but I'm also a huge fan of Solanke. So lots to talk about. I think at Bournemouth this season he's proven himself to be incredible with a good manager. I think Anthony Raiola is a top manager, and Solanke's pressing numbers are some of the strongest in the Premier League. So that bodes very well for him, and I think he would work in this Postecoglou system. My doubts over his goal scoring are just that he surely cannot sustain this level of 20 goals. Was it 20 goals last season? 19 goals last season? It was a really, really strong campaign for him at Bournemouth. His non-pen goals 0.46 per 90, up in the 69th percentile. His non-pen XG in the 77th percentile, 0.47. So he's pretty much in line with his expected goals, but I'm intrigued. I'm very intrigued to see how he would do at Tottenham. I think he is a very good striker, but I don't know, does he perfectly replace what you lost with Harry Kane? 75 million, it's steep to pay. I think he's good, but I'll be intrigued.
I think it's a high price, but I also think he's top 5 Premier League strikers at the moment, for me.
Oh, that's a hell of a
Haaland,
shout.
Watkins, Isak.
I'd have thrown Alvarez in there before he got injured. I'd put Tony ahead of Solanke.
I think Solanke is top 5, top 10 strikers in the Premier League. I think he's a very, very good player. I think 75 million is very expensive. Is my main problem? That is a lot of money to spend on Solanke, but I think he's that good. I think he's a very, very good striker. If he could deliver the same amount of numbers that he does at Bournemouth for Tottenham, potentially heightened because he's getting set up by players like Son and Maddison and Johnson and any other sons.
All the sons.
He's a brilliant player, and if it pays off and he excels, it will be a brilliant transfer.
Yeah, to be fair, I know it's quoted 75-80, and I think I'll get pulled up for that in the comments because I believe you might have a slightly lower release clause than that.
Okay.
I think it was 65 million when I read this morning. It was believed to be a 75-80, and then they discovered there was a release clause. So that'll be interesting to see. The media reporting it,
right.
Found out about the release clause.
Say.
65 million for me is a much better price, but it's still very steep, and I'll be intrigued to see how he performs. So, yeah, I think he's a good player. I've got some doubts.
Yeah, it's an interesting one. It is very much an interesting one, and knowing Tottenham spending big on a player will probably backfire massively, but it might not.
Probably.
It can't be worse than the summer where Soldado and co joined, so...
That is
no, Janssen. Was it? Yeah, Janssen.
Yeah, Vincent Janssen, Roberto Soldado, Nasir Chadley.
What
LeMayo was alright, Ericsson was
yeah,
alright.
yeah.
I think they were both the same summer.
That was a good window. But
Nabil Bentelev.
It's a huge transfer.
Yeah.
Huge transfer.
Yeah, definitely so. I think it's very, very interesting to see Tottenham next season. I think if they can sign a few more players, they're going to be very strong. But you never know. If Solanke doesn't perform, and they've got Solanke and Richarlison both not performing. There's huge doubts over that striker role. But they've still got Son, who's going to put up decent numbers you would expect. He's got to, again, Son wasn't as good as he normally is. He still had a good season last season, but he wasn't as good as he normally is. So
No.
I'll be interested to see what happens to Tottenham next season. I think they are very good, but we will see.
Yes.
But yeah, I think that's everything for this video. If you have enjoyed, get involved in the comments below, and if you want to keep watching our previews, then there's going to be one on screen now where we talk about Southampton. Of course, you can find all of the previews for this Premier League season on our channel. We've done one for every Premier League side, and of course, make sure to look out for tomorrow's one, where we'll be talking about West Ham, who had a very good summer, so look out for that. But that is everything from us today, so thank you guys very, very much for watching, and we'll see you next time.
See ya.